So now we've seen the man of the moment, Daddy, dancing at the end there. I'm going to start all this over again, I think. So I'm going to put a few words around what we've just seen, if that's all right. And I hope I'm going to embarrass you. That's my plan, anyhow. So we know he was born in Malawi, and we know he's nearly 75, but that's why we're here on Saturday. So that means, quite amazingly, that he becomes no longer an active deputy lieutenant, he becomes a supplemental one. I can't believe that he will ever be inactive, and he should be supplemental, but those are the rules, sadly, so we're here to celebrate that, of course. When I looked at your history, I didn't know that Rashid in his day was a very fine seam bowler and a terrific slip fielder, but I suspect he made that up himself, probably. I can imagine he would have been very competitive, wouldn't he? And I wouldn't have liked to have faced him, I'm absolutely certain of that. He was also the youngest, he was the first Asian cub, would you believe, in Malawi. And as a Boy Scout, was presented to Mrs. Baden-Powell, apparently. Can you imagine him in his shorts and those knobbly Gatrad knees that we were seeing? And we saw there the headlines of his medical career, so we know that he trained in Leeds, and then at university in Leeds, that he went on to the Northwest, the hospital up in the Northwest, graduating in 1971. And I think we saw a little bit of it there, but I think it's just worth pausing, if I may, and just quoting his experience in those days, because I think it's important to say this. So these are Rashid's own words. I experienced a lot of racial discrimination in those early years. It still saddens me now when I think back to the attitudes and behaviours of some people. They made it very clear that my face didn't fit. I recall one colleague in particular who constantly belittled and bullied me in front of others, but I made up my mind I would not be a victim, and I told her very clearly that I would report her to the GMC and would not tolerate her speaking to me in that way. The bullying stopped, and I'm so pleased that I stood up to her. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've made some progress, haven't we, since those awful days, but we've still got a long way to go. So I just wanted to pause and say that, Rashid, and good for you for standing up, and we must encourage people to continue to do so. And then he came here, won't be lucky, he came to Warsaw in 1983, then a consultant paediatrician, and then, of course, not long after, as head of the paediatrics department of Warsaw Manor Hospital, of course, we know so well. But also now Professor of Paediatrics and Chief Child Health at the University of Kentucky and the University of Wolverhampton, with a PhD from Wolverhampton as well. And more honours than I could possibly go through if we're going to have any sort of dinner tonight. I've been here all evening. Over 80 academic papers, as we saw, co-author of 2 medical books, an honorary senior lecturer at the University of Birmingham, a postgraduate examiner for the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, and of course there is more, much more. So when he arrived here, what did he do? Well, first of all, he raised funds for the first purpose-built mosque that we saw up there. And then we know him now as Chief Executive and Trustee of Midland International Aid Trust. Again, we saw a lot of that with Mohammed Aslam, working tirelessly at constant humanitarian support that Rashid has provided. Bosnia and Kosovo, cleft-lip and paddle operations, cataract operations, projects in South Africa. So Diane and I first met him. It's not often you can remember exactly when you first meet someone, is it? You know you met them sometime around then. Well, I met you at Dudley Castle in 2015 at a lieutenancy dinner. I absolutely remember it because I did not escape without being told that he was raising money for corrugated roofs in the pool. I just done a fundraising trek in Darjeeling, so he saw me coming and got me. And he got Diana as well. So I always remember that night and realising what extraordinary energy you had. And such passion as well for what you were doing. And there have been so many other wonderful Rashid initiatives. Only very recently, of course, if you're fleeing Kabul as a refugee and you're fleeing to Britain and you're landing at Birmingham Airport, 8,000 of you, obviously leaving everything behind. Who's there working hard to help you? Rashid is. And his charity has helped thousands of people, as we saw, in India, Pakistan, Haiti, South Africa, Nigeria, Malawi, Indonesia, Bangladesh. And of course he inspired the hospital in Gujarat named after his mother. And then just a few of the awards. You're getting hungry, get started quick. The OBE, of course, 20 years ago, for services to paediatrics, and the language in those days, services to the ethnic minority communities. A special Mayor's Civic Award for raising £100,000 for the Mayor's fundraising appeal. Freedom of the Borough of Warsaw, as we saw then, acknowledging his contribution, halving the mortality rates of newborns in Warsaw. Honorary doctors, as I mentioned, in Wolverhampton, an honorary fellowship from the Royal College of Paediatrics, a Rotary International Award for helping to eradicate polio, and a silver level national award for clinical excellence, which I know is really something. And of course, a deputy lieutenant just before Dudley Castle. So